Well, the Golden Globes is getting into the podcast game.
Yes, sir.
They have announced that there will be a podcast category in the upcoming Golden Globes,
Mm-hmm.
the 2026 Golden Globe Awards to be exact.
Right.
And it will be Best Podcast of the Year.
Mm.
Apparently, they have identified 25 podcasts that are in the running for the nomination. And of that 25, I think they're going to narrow it down to six.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't
that
have,
sounds about right.
yeah, I don't have the number in front of me right now, but they're going to narrow it down to six, and then those will be just like anything else. Those will be the
The
nominees, and
nominees.
then
Yep.
there will be one that is selected uh, the day of the awards or the week of, because certain categories don't make it to air. So
Television, right? Yep.
yeah, so I'm quoting a comedian slash podcaster, Bert Kreischer, who says this is what the industry needs: recognition that podcasting is storytelling. It's not just noise, it's a craft.
I dig that. That's a great quote.
It is a great quote. And by the way, he is the host of Bertcast and Two Bears, One Cave. I have no idea what those podcasts are about. So I just full disclosure, I don't want anybody to go try to listen to it and they hear something controversial or something
Right.
that
Or it
they wouldn't
sucks.
normally support. So or it
Right.
sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to, because there are plenty of podcasts out there that have topics that we would never support or have viewpoints that we would never support. So I want to make sure y'all know I'm just reading from a Variety article. I don't know who this man is. And maybe
Right.
I should, I don't know, but y'all will tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, it says it's a list of the most popular podcasts. Some of the notable podcasts, well, they're all notable,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the podcasts listed are um, the Tucker Carlson Show,
Yep.
the Megyn Kelly Show,
Okay.
the Joe Rogan Experience,
Knew that was coming.
Call Her Daddy,
Yep. Okay. I see.
Good
I
Hang
see.
with Amy Poehler,
Mm-hmm.
which is new to the game. So, snaps for them for making it on the first round of um, top podcasts. I'm sure that's not an accident though. Um, what else do we have here? And those are the big ones that are noted here.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, what people are saying is that we don't really know how they're getting to the six.
Right. We don't know the requirements that they're going to use. There's
Yeah,
a better word. Criteria.
criteria. Yeah, we don't know. And when you
Right.
go from Call Her Daddy and Joe Rogan to Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, you've got and that's just four. I'm sure there's a bunch more
Right.
different genres. It becomes a little hairy because now what you're trying to do, which other award shows have done, smaller award shows have done, but what you're trying to do is put the entire podcast industry into one category.
To one just little container.
Meanwhile, the Golden Globes is broken out in a very specific way. I feel like for podcasting, you have to break it out kind of like music, where it would be by genre or
But that's how all the award shows are by genre. So I was trying not to cut you off, but I think it's really weird that the only thing they're doing is best podcast. Because it is exciting on one hand that they're recognizing and awarding podcasting, but on the other side, it's like, but you just put everybody in one category, and I don't understand why when you don't really do that.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little frustrated with, excuse me. I think if it has to be, I
well,
think if you're
actually,
going to
they
do
do best
podcasts,
film, right?
hmm?
I said actually they do best film, right?
Right, and I think when it comes to like movies specifically, is the Golden Globes, yeah. When it comes to movies specifically, I don't think it gets broken out by genre. I think it gets broken out by best actress, best supporting. Um, some of it does. I shouldn't say all of it, but some of it does. Like they'll say, best so and so in a drama or whatever. But I feel like they don't break out the genres too much because they can't.
I understand what you're saying.
I think with podcasting though, especially if it's going to be described, and I know this wasn't the Golden Globes, this was a podcaster who said this, but especially if you're going to try to identify it as a storytelling genre in and of itself, you have to allow for there to be flexibility. Like, there's tons of podcasts about tons of different topics. You could create a whole show, excuse me, not a show, but you could create a whole awards system for just podcasting, and you'd have more than enough to choose from.
I agree.
Which I'm sure there's someone out there in the world working on that. It just hasn't happened yet. We've seen it a little bit in other award shows where they'll kind of stick a podcast category in there, kind
Yeah.
of doing the same thing. I know that the Webby Awards has podcasting is included in that.
Mm.
So I see the direction we're going in. I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know, guys. First of all, how y'all get into the six? Because are y'all just gonna pick your favorites? Like, are y'all just gonna pick Tucker and Joe and Amy because it's Tucker, Joe, and Amy? And listen, all of it comes down to a popularity contest anyway. I understand that, but I just feel
Yeah.
like there's so much missed opportunity
Right.
with the extensive catalog of podcasts if you
Yeah,
just
definitely.
single out the top guys.
Yeah, and is it if it's best podcast, then criteria matters, right? Because what identifies it as the best, quote unquote? Because it's easy to say most popular and go by numbers, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
the best, what exactly makes it the best? So it's a weird situation. Like I said, on one hand, I think it's exciting that they're awarding and nodding to podcasting, um, acknowledging podcasting. But then on the other hand, it's like this is a little weird to just throw everybody in one pot.
It
They're
is.
making podcast gumbo.
And it's still new, so that's to be expected, I think, to some degree. I just, as a podcaster, it's like, okay, this is in no way going to be a balanced
Yeah.
um display of the podcast talent out there. And I guess that's the case for everything, right? Like,
Mhm.
people get, even with music, people get handpicked as
Right.
like the artists that are gonna go toe to toe. So I guess if we're thinking about it in that way, it's pretty similar. But also, the last thing I wanted to point out was you were saying, how does it get defined, but also how does a podcast itself get defined?
Mm.
Because is Tucker, I don't know anything about it, and I don't know if you do, but is Tucker Carlson's show something that passes over to the podcast side, or does it start as is it an actual podcast? I gotta look that up because for example, The Breakfast Club, something that I'm a lot more familiar with, is a radio show.
Right.
The Rich Eisen show, which I probably shouldn't even mention here, is a radio show.
Right.
And it passes over to podcast.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Never mind. I'll stop speaking now because.
I think you were making a great point. There are some shows. No, I think that's a great point. There are some shows that are on major networks, on radio stations that are also being acknowledged as podcasts. It's like kind of cheating in a sense. And so I think that's a great question. I think there's a lot of questions to ask here. And I think what's exciting is that this exists, right? Because
Of
it's
course.
the first award show of its caliber to acknowledge podcasting and award podcasting. So that part is exciting. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be dismissive of that because it
Yeah.
means that it's possible that in a couple years we could have a bunch of categories getting Golden Globe podcasts, or there could be an entire Golden Globe podcast show, like you said. So it could be, the Golden Globe podcast awards are the next day or something like that.
Or the
So
Emmys. The Emmys do what is it, daytime, and then they do like all of the primetime stuff is separate, is two separate
right, there you
awards
go. So
events. So maybe
right,
there's, opportunity
and
for
then we'll
that.
be seeing y'all at the Golden Globes. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'll be there with my gown on.
Live from the red carpet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to dismiss the excitement that I feel personally about this because I think it is
Yeah.
important to share that this is happening, but also to say like it's just starting. Let's give it some time to see how they do. This first award is probably going to be trash. They're going to pick a favorite, like you said. I totally agree with that. But let's
It's
look
gonna be
at the
Joe Rogan.
opportunity. What do you say?
It's gonna be Joe Rogan or Amy Poehler.
I didn't want to say no names, but yeah, I totally think they got a fave five like T-Mobile used to. You know what I'm saying?
It's not gonna be Tucker and Megan because they're too polarizing. Like they're gonna be like I feel like they're gonna be nominated, but they're not gonna actually win the award.
I mean,
'Cause-
Rogan is like the face of podcasting today. So,
Right.
and maybe not today. Maybe today that's on the decline. Maybe, but it's probably gonna be Rogan.
Yeah, I say Rogan or Amy Poehler as an upset. Like where people are like, oh my gosh, how did Rogan not get it? I
Right.
think that would be
Well, and that's the other thing, right? When there's only one award, there's going to be a lot of how did so and so not get it, which is why they
yes.
should probably let us know what the criteria is because that would be helpful and probably produce less of that questioning. But whatever. My point
Yeah.
was that it's exciting. It presents a lot of new opportunities. And last thing I'll say on this topic is it's a copycat game out here. So perhaps because the Golden Globes are sparking it, other big award shows, quote unquote,
Yeah.
big, quote unquote, prestigious award shows will say, hey, you know what? You saw what these guys are doing? Maybe we should be doing that too.
Yeah. Agree.